Amadeus makes the experience of travel better for everyone everywhere by inspiring innovation, partnerships, and responsibility to people, places, and planet. Our technology powers the travel and tourism industry, inspiring more open ways of working, more connected ways of thinking, centered around the traveler. Our open platform connects the global travel and hospitality ecosystem, from startups to big industry players and governments too. Together, redesigning the travel of tomorrow. Amadeus, it's how travel works. Visit us to know more, amadeus.com.
Welcome to the Skift India Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Peden, and today we'll be talking about road transport in India. Joining me is Prakash Sangam, the CEO of RedBus, a bus ticketing platform. And recently they've started something called Red Rail, which is a train ticket booking service. With India's vast network of roads, trains, and buses serving as a lifeline for millions, understanding the dynamics of the sector is crucial. Prakash, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on the show, Peden.
Thank you so much, Prakash. Prakash, I want before we talk about anything, before we talk about road transport, buses, trains, for anyone who might say that why is bus and train so important for the for the travel fabric of India? Could you please explain why is it so important from a travel perspective? And I'm not talking about travel to reach from point A to point B, but how travelers are using this transport system.
Sure, I think you have hit upon like probably $1 million or $1 billion question right at the outset. And I will concentrate and focus my answer on purely the intercity travel segment, given that we are not talking about transportation or commute here. I'm purely talking about travel between cities, which is some form of long distance or medium distance commute or travel.
Mhm.
Now here, if you look at India, right, there are, let's say, 100 occasions of travel that take place. Only about 5 occur by flight, right? The balance 95 happen over ground, of which about 65 of those 100 occasions take place on road, and 30 of those occasions take place through rail. Now, when it comes to talking about the travel sector, we often, in terms of our interest or in terms of coverage, in terms of what is popularly covered in journalistic media, it is usually the other way around, right?
Mhm.
A disproportionate amount of focus on travel happens on air travel, followed by rail and followed by road. And I guess the reason for it is that the level of organization of these modes of transport vary a lot. And therefore, air travel is very well regulated, controlled, centralized, managed, uh, and in the community of travel professionals like all of us, it's also consumed a lot, right? And therefore it gets a lion's share of discussion, news print or podcast minutes or whatever, and it progressively kind of goes down for the other modes. Like I said, 95% of the travel happens on road and rail. Now, if you were to look at just the organized part of this, right, even that numbers are not small. So if you look at daily passenger volumes for intercity travel, there are close to about 4.5 lakh passengers, passengers who travel using flights, uh, and there are close to about 1.5 million daily passengers who travel using buses, which are in the more organized space. And if you were to look at train travel, that number goes up to about 2.2 million a day, right? So even in terms of the slightly more organized form of transport, a lion's share of commute is or travel is contributed by rail and bus in India, and therefore these are segments that we can't, we need to pay some attention to.
I think you have kind of broken it down why this sector is important for travel, and it is not just about commute, but about how a large proportion of the population, and I think even foreign tourists, use these modes of transport. You know, Prakash, as we emerge from the pandemic, how would you describe the current state of India's road transport sector? And what are the major changes that you've observed in bus travel patterns across the country?
Yeah, so there are two fundamental drivers of these changes that we have seen. The first
Mhm.
is very, very macro based in terms of what has been some of the government priorities and what are some of the changes as a result of that. And there, I would say again, there are within that there are two major thrusts there. One is the sheer amount of expressway and highway build outs that have happened over the last decade or so. So in the last 10 years, the total highway road length in the country has gone up from about 75 odd thousand kilometers to about 1.5 lakh kilometers now. It's almost doubled, right? And that has a big implication as far as travel using road is concerned. We put out this every quarter, we put out something called the India Bus Track. And in the inaugural issue, we had covered about what is the impact of a highway on bus travel or transport, right? So we had taken the example of Samriddhi Expressway, which is the highway that connects Mumbai to Nagpur. Now, this expressway is not even fully complete yet. Only about 70% of it is done. From Nasik to Nagpur, the Mumbai to Nasik corridor is still getting done. But even then, right, with this partially going live, the travel time between Mumbai and Nagpur has come down by nearly about 2.5 hours. As a result of this, more people are now able to travel, and therefore travel on this corridor has gone up by nearly three times, and the cost of travel has come down by about 15 to 20%, because now of course it's a more it's a faster way to get there. Less fuel gets burned, therefore operators have been able to reduce the fares. As the fare has come down and time taken has come down, more people are traveling. So this is the kind of impact that one expressway has had, and it's very illustrative. Now just think through in terms of the entire highway length being doubled, and more such corridors are coming live as we speak, right? This will have very large implications, positive implications on bus travel. And the other aspect of government policy has been around regulation. So one of the seminal changes that happened, in fact, during the COVID times, is that there was a all India tourist permit rules that got framed, and that essentially regulated the road transport, bus transport sector to a more centralized form of permit buying, rather than otherwise in the earlier system, a bus which, let's say, went from one state, let's say it went from Bangalore to Hyderabad, it had to go through three states, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana. It would have to buy permits in all of these three states, right? And therefore the cost of operations would go up. But now with these new rules which have come through, operators can buy a single national permit, and by virtue of that they can cut through any number of states to take that particular bus can travel anywhere. So that again brings down the cost of operations and give tremendous flexibility, where now you're not restricted to just operate on a particular route. If you're finding that seasonally the demand patterns are shifting, because you've got a national permit, you could also run your buses on other routes. So all of these have been quite forward looking, and therefore as a result of it, the supply situation has really improved for this sector. And with build out of new expressways, highways, the demand also has picked up, right? Now coming on to what are some of the other factors that is causing change post COVID, that has got to do with digitization, right? So COVID
Absolutely.
has resulted in a big digitization super cycle. Um, and as a result of that, now we are seeing that there is a massive amount of online penetration
Mhm.
for for these services coming even from tier 2 and tier 3 towns. So much so that for RedBus now, close to two-thirds of our booking now originates from non-metros and non-state capitals, right?
Earlier,
So that
what was the proportion like between tier two and tier one cities?
it was 50-50. So now that
Okay.
is now shifted to like two-thirds of it now coming from tier two and tier three markets, which are, like I said, non-metros and state capitals. Travel is originating from there, right? So the sheer uh, increase in highway density, the penetration of digital ticketing reaching the hinterlands of the country has resulted in a lot of supply acquisition for us, which is now um, like if you were to look at the total number of unique towns that we connect on RedBus to the network of buses which are on our platform, we connect close to about 10 or 1,000 towns uniquely, and it translates into 420 odd thousand unique source destination combinations, right? Unique routes. So that tells you that the network is very widespread, and bus travel uh, is anyway a very mass phenomenon. A lot of that now is finding expression through online ticketing as well.
Interesting that you mentioned about the fact that, of course, we can understand that how bus travel connects the interiors of the country, India, to other parts of to the bigger cities. But just I know there isn't much comparison that we can do, but the government has been talking about the Udan scheme, which is like Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, right? It's about connecting the really small airports, to bigger cities. Do you see that as I won't say competition, but does that take away your share of travelers, and because they now also have the option to fly?
I would say it is a lot more complementary than competitive.
Mhm.
So, so first of all, in pure scale terms, right? Like I mentioned that the unique towns that are connected today on the platform number to about 10,000, right? Now we are talking about airports. There are, I guess, about 80 to 100. I think with Udan, etc., it is going up to about 100 operational airports in the country. That may go up to about 120, I guess. But still, there's a massive scale difference between 120 and a 10,000. The second aspect is even when you're talking about 100 or 120 airports, people still have a need to travel from there to their final destinations, right? So there could be
Okay.
a flight that could take somebody up to Hubli, right? But from Hubli, they may want to go to the neighboring districts, right? Or they may want to go to the district headquarter town, right, nearby. For that, they will again have to depend on road transports. I would say that if through air connectivity, if more travelers are going to be traveling, it enables a few more people to travel definitely. But that will also have a knock on effect on further last mile connectivity, and therefore more road travel being generated as a result of that as well.
Interesting. Interesting. Prakash, you mentioned something about digitization. Of course, we are seeing a growing preference for online ticketing platforms in India. I have a few questions related to that. Now, how do you think this shift towards digital bookings is reshaping the whole road transport industry in India, particularly in terms of accessibility and convenience for passengers? And the second part is that about state-owned road transport corporations. They play a critical role in India's public transport system, but what do you see as some of the key challenges, for these road transport corporations in the digital age, especially when it comes to integrating their services with online platforms?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So let me take your first part of your question first, right? Which is around how has the digitization contributed towards increased passenger convenience?
Correct.
And I just want to say that as RedBus, we are a marketplace. We don't own or operate buses. As a marketplace, we connect bus operators with bus travelers, right? But as a marketplace, we are able to enforce or create policies or tailor our marketplace in such a way that it influences the behavior of the marketplace participants. Let me illustrate what I'm saying. For example, if somebody were to come to RedBus to look for a bus, right? The kind of buses that they will see first, they will end up clicking on those first. And like any of us, right? If you were to do a Google search, we end up clicking on the top results first, and that is true of any kind of online shopping experience. So what we do and what we've been doing over a period of time is to ensure that bus operators who deliver very good experience as measured in ratings given by passengers, that is the primary weightage that we take into account to determine the position of a bus operator's service on our search results page, right? As a result, when customers come in, they automatically end up discovering bus operators who run better services. On top, they end up clicking there, they end up buying, traveling with them. Therefore, those operators end up seeing higher occupancy. They end up being able to command a price premium, and over time they are profitable. They are able to increase their fleet size and continue to give good service, right? And the operators who have, let's say, over time have not been able to deliver well on customer experience, they find that their occupancies kind of start dropping, and they drop out of the marketplace and maybe out of the business entirely, right? So this self-fulfilling kind of cycle results in high quality operators growing faster, doing better, able to expand more, and and it helps customers also experience good quality service, and therefore their trust on traveling by bus goes up, and they end up repeating bus travel a lot more. So this is one way in which online platforms like us have influenced the quality of services fundamentally on, and therefore 8 years ago, a, a traveler, let's say, taking a bus was experiencing a quality of travel for which he was rating it as 3.2 on an average on a 5-point scale. Today on our platform, the average rating has come to about 3.86, which means that over a period of time, the quality of bus travel as experienced by customers have improved.
Have the quality of buses also improved, as in more modern buses joining the fleet?
Amadeus makes the experience of travel better for everyone everywhere by inspiring innovation, partnerships, and responsibility to people, places, and planet. Our technology powers the travel and tourism industry, inspiring more open ways of working, more connected ways of thinking, centered around the traveler. Our open platform connects the global travel and hospitality ecosystem, from startups to big industry players and governments too, together redesigning the travel of tomorrow. Amadeus, it's how travel works. Visit us to know more, Amadeus.com.
Yes, absolutely. So what happens is that bus operators have realized that in order to um get higher occupancy and better yield, they need to maintain a higher rating, right? In order to maintain a high rating, while there are many factors, three things play a very important role. One is punctuality, the other is the behavior of the staff, and third is the comfort and the quality of the bus, right? So as a result of that, a lot of investment has gone into the kind of buses that and the interiors of the bus, where operators have invested to make sure that one, the buses continue to stay new. So typically after about 4 years, there is a recycling of buses that happen because they find that the ratings start to drop. So people invest in refreshing their fleet and keeping the buses new, and then they also uh, take care in terms of providing good comforts inside the bus in terms of either in bus entertainment, having clean interiors, sanitization, hygiene, um, uh, upholstery and all of that. So this is how online services like ours have kind of played a role in influencing the quality of bus service over a period of time. The other one is purely in terms of using technology to improve passenger experience, and this is where if you take and compare and contrast bus with other modes of travel like rail or air, where you've got a railway station or an airport to go to, right? So you've got very um, organized systems where you go to board a flight or a train, whereas buses typically lack such infrastructure. The pickup points are typically curbside, and therefore passengers usually have a lot of problem, oftentimes knowing where exactly to wait for the bus or even knowing where the bus is, right? And we've been able to solve for this with fundamentally two things. One, essentially with mobile platforms becoming very commonplace over the last decade or so, people are traveling with their phones. So we are able to give them a lot of real-time information. So we've been able to do things like geocoding of all the boarding points and therefore helping to navigate people to the boarding point. We have been able to use GPS technology to live track buses and inform people where the bus is, what is the ETA to their boarding point. When they are taking an overnight trip and they are asleep, we trigger a wake up call alarm informing them when their dropping point is about to reach, right, about to come. So these are uh, ways in which we have been able to deploy technology to also then improve passenger convenience and comfort. And some of this also finds manifestation on the operator side. So the same GPS technology leads to better fleet management. They are able to curb things like overspeeding, unscheduled halts, route deviations. So they get alerts for all of these things, right? Right, and therefore they're also able to control any kind of deviant behavior, let's say from their crew. So this is how technology um, has helped improve the overall passenger experience and also efficiency of bus operations. Now, coming on to the second point, right? Just having access, uh, giving people the ability to look for buses and book them conveniently from the comfort of their living room has also resulted in a big jump in ticketing and therefore people feeling comfortable and confident to book. So one of the customer segments, and you will appreciate this, Peden, is women have often had some have had concerns about traveling, about undertaking bus journeys, with respect to safety, traveling alone. But over the last few years, we have seen that women passengers are growing much faster than male passengers. Single women passengers account for 40% of all female travelers, right? And to make sure that women find it comfortable to travel a bus, we have taken a number of steps as well. uh, there's a there's actually a woman booking mode that is possible. So if you're trying to book a ticket on RedBus, you can toggle this mode to switch on the woman booking mode, and then it will give you many things around how many other women are traveling in the bus that you're interested in. It will tell you which are the more popular boarding points, and therefore you expect more number of people to be there and therefore safer. We have got a dedicated women helpline that gets activated on the day of the travel so that women can reach out, and that helpline is managed by a dedicated set of trained agents. So there is immediate response and care that could be provided for anything that could be a matter of concern during travel. There are women specific offers that bus operators are willing to give to attract more women to travel with them. So and then they see all our ratings and reviews cut by other women, right? So they're able to identify buses which have been rated very highly by other women. What are other women passengers talking about in terms of reviews of the bus? We have information on even on rest stops. So the rest stops on which buses stop, we have got ratings for those based on safety, hygiene, and food quality. So that information also is surfaced. So these are ways in which we have been able to also kind of take some demand segments which historically were probably a bit averse to traveling by buses, and a lot of credit to bus operators that they have also been able to really invest in providing the right quality in order to attract and retain women passengers, families to come and travel with us. Now, coming on to road transport corporations and how accessibility enables ticketing. Now, it's pretty commonplace that in markets like Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, um, Kerala, um, even let's say UP, many of those RTCs are being available on a platform and people to access and book bus tickets. But of late, we also have JNK RTC. We have got Sikkim National Transport SNT. We've got the Assam RTC as well. Within Assam, we have got the Karbi Anglong Autonomous Council buses on our platform, right? So we've got the Meghalaya Transport Corporation.
So this you're talking about is the northeast of India, which is essentially a bit difficult to secure entry to. For if you say, for instance, if you're a foreign traveler, then you need some kind of pass to go through, a permit to go through. But you managed to bring them also into the fold. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, exactly. So the northeast of the country and the northern fringes of the country, these are typically very difficult terrains. They're all largely hilly,
Yes.
mountainous. It's unlike other large parts of India. These are not very heavily populated and fairly remote. So
And this is also
connectivity
this is
is poor.
also the government is also trying to encourage more people to travel to these places, to see these
Exactly,
places, right? A
absolutely.
great part of the Dekho Apna Desh vision of the Prime Minister.
Right now, just imagine if someone were to be from a different part of the country or coming from outside. Earlier, they would not know how to even go about, you know, sourcing for travel once they have reached these places. And here,
Correct.
trains are not there as much because these are all hilly regions, right? So now it's
Correct.
possible to know all the itineraries upfront, to plan your travel, to even access information about bus availability, make the ticket booking seamlessly, transparently. So all of that capability is available because we've got now all of this inventory available on online platforms like ours for people to access.
Prakash, what I wanted to ask you about is expanding internationally is also a focus for RedBus, right? Because you've mentioned earlier that you have plans to increase, international revenue contribution. Right now, it's
Yeah,
about 11%. You plan to take it up to 15%. So,
right.
what are the markets that you're targeting? You know, I mean, like, how do you plan to replicate the success that you've had in India and Southeast Asia in these new regions?
Yeah. So we've looked at markets which have a market structure similar to India, in a sense that I think the value of a platform like a RedBus comes through um, if the seller ecosystem is more fragmented, right? Now, if there are many bus operators in a market, then an aggregator platform makes sense because you're able to add value to the customers by giving them the single interface through which they can compare through various options, compare on fare, on timings, on boarding point, dropping point, on the kind of bus, all of that. So it's a value that we can add to the customers. At the same time, we can add a lot of value to the bus operators by able to give them visibility, by able to give them higher occupancy and load factors. So we've looked at markets where the bus operators are uh, markets where one the bus market itself is quite large, and also where within that bus market there are multiple bus operators, right? Where there is fair amount of fragmentation in the supply side. So this is how we have kind of identified markets. The other thing factor that we've kept in mind is the digital penetration in that market. What is the kind of electronic commerce penetration, e-commerce penetration, digital payments?
Mhm.
That's the other factor that we have kept in mind. So we have looked at supply and demand side, and keeping these things in mind, we have now entered into countries in Southeast Asia, which include Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, uh, Vietnam, Cambodia. These are some markets that we are present in Southeast Asia. And we've also made an acquisition and later on integrated that into RedBus. This was in Peru, and from there we have expanded to Colombia as well. So this is our current footprint of our business, and we are constantly on the lookout for other markets where our thesis can hold true and where we could look to enter. As of now, we are focused on consolidating and growing in the markets that we're already present in, and that is what we are focused on.
Okay. Also, Prakash, when we are talking about the fact that changing the fabric of road transport, what I would like to mention is the introduction of you've had these ancillary or value added services like travel insurance and loyalty programs, which which seems like a great way to better the customer experience. So, how are these services being received? And how do they fit into your overall growth strategy?
Okay, so in terms of our revenue model, our predominant revenue model comes through getting commissions on tickets that we sell. Um, Apart from this, there are value-added services that we offer to both our supply partners as well as our customers. On the customer side, so whenever we look at creating a product as a marketplace, we look at saying that how do those products result in a win for the customer, a win for the supplier, and therefore a win for the platform as well. And that's how we end up crafting our products. So we run a loyalty program called Trip Rewards. Now, the Trip Reward is fundamentally a loyalty program that is run for a bus operator, right? On RedBus. So a operator can configure to say that look, anyone who ends up taking 3 trips with me gets a fourth one free up to a certain limit, or somebody who takes 4 trips gets a fifth one free. It's configurable, and therefore, for the end customer, it's a pricing benefit. If they like traveling with a certain operator, they get rewarded for the loyalty. For the bus operator, they are able to therefore get a higher share of business from their loyal customers, and they're able to retain their customers. And for our platform also, it's a win because this offer, so to say, is running only on RedBus, right? So the bus operator loyalty also leads to platform loyalty as well. So we think of, so whenever we do things, we think of all the constituents in the marketplace and something that works for everyone. So one of the things that we have launched recently is free cancellation. Right now, customers who book in advance, they are kind of hesitant to go ahead and make the booking because they may uh, be not be 100% sure of their plans, right? And therefore they end up not booking. Now, operators would like bookings to come in advance because they can plan their schedules better, right? So by offering a free cancellation as a product, we are able to trigger earlier bookings. We are A customer has to pay a small premium such that in case they want to cancel, they get there's no cancellation penalty that is levied. Therefore, they get the confidence to book ahead of time, which also helps the operator. And there's an additional revenue that we are able to generate as well. So this is how we end up crafting products in the marketplace that benefit all the constituents.
Also, Prakash, are you seeing? I mean, I also wanted to ask about the fact that how are these services being received by the customer? Do you think that people wouldn't mind paying a little extra for a travel insurance or being part of a loyalty program? How is this being received by them?
It's look the First of all these products are completely on an opt-in basis, right? So
Yes,
which means that
voluntary.
well, it's completely voluntary. So customers who uh, are sometimes, let's say, unsure of their plans, but they would want to make sure. See, one of the things about booking in advance and reserving your seat is that you end up getting the seat of your choice, the bus of your choice, right?
Correct.
If it's a like a peak travel weekend and you end up deferring your booking to the last minute, you don't end up getting that choice. Now, when you're booking early, you get that choice, but if you're not sure about your plans, then you don't end up booking, right? So that's a trade-off that you make. So some people may end up saying, okay, let me give an additional premium, wherein I can secure the seat of my choice. But in case there's a change of my plan, then I don't end up losing the full amount, or I don't end up incurring a substantial penalty. I end up recovering almost all the money. So it is really, these products are designed to benefit those customers. We have another program called RedBus Assurance Program, wherein we give a kind of an assurance to the customer that the bus that they're traveling, that they're booked on, will definitely run on that day. And in case it doesn't run, then we give them like 150% refund. So that 100% is, of course, the money that they've paid, but they also get an extra 50%, which that allows them to change their plans in the last minute. Even if prices have gone up, they can still be flexible and get. Now, if as a person, if you're traveling on a route that you're very familiar with, or on an operator that you've got past experience with, you may not end up choosing this assurance program, right, as an additional top up. But if you're traveling in a new route or a new place, new geography, right, then you may end up choosing it. So these are services which are voluntary. They have got its own set of customers, and we are quite happy with the way the uptake for these products have been.
Great. My last question to you, what are the innovations in the transport sector that excite you the most right now? Of course, you talked about, how digitization has happened and how things are changing. But what do you think about new technologies like, artificial intelligence, machine learning? How do you think they are going to shape the future of road transport in India?
Yeah, that's a very pertinent question. So let me touch upon uh, a few things that where we are already seeing a lot of work happening, and already impact on the ground, and a few where we can expect things to have a material impact going forward. So one clear area that we have been able to make a lot of impact on is using the data at our disposal, because with a lot of digitalization happening, everything is recorded. We've got a lot of signals, right? Data signals that we can, using machine learning and all the algorithms which are now available, and the ability to run these algorithms and process data at scale, we have been able to harness this and provide a lot of different applications. One is on the customer side. There's a lot of personalization that's at play. So we are able to consume a lot of signals and be able to surface the right bus to the right person, knowing his past preferences. And this is almost subliminal. Customers don't even realize it. The machine is doing the job at the back end. We have seen significant improvement in order share. Order share is the way we define order share is, what are the top 10 results that we show? What percentage of our bookings come from the top 10 results that are shown to customers, right? Uh, so if, let's say, 80% of our bookings come from the top 10 results, we say our order share is 80%. So we have seen good improvements in order share and conversion rate on our platforms as a result of this. This is on the consumer side. On the passenger side, on the operator side, we have been able to use a lot of this data to create data-based products for bus operators. We have a product called RevMax. This is a yield management tool that plugs into the operator's reservation system to dynamically alter the price and to influence the yield of the bus, right? So it's a software as a service that our bus operators subscribe to as an additional value added service that we are able to provide, right? So it basically takes into account uh, what demand signals to say, okay, it's able to predict for a future date of travel what is likely to be the demand in a particular route for a particular type of bus which is operating in a particular time of the day, right?
Mhm.
And taking and having predicted the demand, it also understands what is the price elasticity of the operator, right? What kind of price can he command, and therefore it keeps altering the price in order to maximize the yield. It is basically trying to find the right balance between supply and demand, and therefore maximizing the yield for the operator. So on a peak day, on a peak travel day, it will try and maximize on price. On a low demand day, it will try and maximize on occupancy or fill rate, right? And therefore increasing the chances of getting a higher yield for the operator. Now, this product is completely run on through machine learning, and operators pay a separate subscription fee for it. Right now, these are things that we have currently deployed. Now, the some of the other aspects that we can see more development happening is on telematics. Vehicles today are increasingly becoming more electronics than mechanical parts. Right, so there's a lot of electronic data, etc., that gets captured, and through 5G, etc., all this data can be easily transported to the cloud, and then machine learning algorithms can make a lot. So it can do a lot of things like predictive maintenance, driving behavior analysis, all of those kind of things that are possible to do, and this will have a significant impact going forward, along with the whole technology transition happening from diesel vehicles to electric vehicles. So these are things on which there could be more impact in the future, whereas some of the things on which we have already seen impact in terms of demand prediction, dynamic pricing, all of that has already been deployed at the works.
Thank you so much, Prakash, for sharing your insights into this, complex yet very interesting part of Indian travel sector. It's very clear that the road transport sector is on its way to significant transformation, of course, driven by technology as well as changing consumer behavior. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
And thank you, Peden, for providing this platform where hopefully I've been able to shed some light on the bus transport sector. I enjoyed the conversation.
I enjoyed the conversation as well, and there were so many significant takeaways from it. There were so many things that I learned new based on what you told us today. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Be sure to join us next time for more such conversations. Thank you.
If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other platform, please subscribe, rate us 5 stars, or leave a positive review. Your support helps us spread the word about the Skift India Travel Podcast and ensures we can keep bringing you free content every week. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the Skift channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated whenever a new video drops. Thank you for your support.